Matteo Raul. How are you guys?
I am great. What about you, Jacob?
Excellent, excellent. Matteo, how you feeling? How you living?
Very good, very good. Good climate in the Web3 space, right? Also green candles, a bit of happiness around. So always good to have, um, in every single cycle. And this is the time to enjoy it.
Yes, yes. We survived the bear market. We can start to thaw out a little bit and enjoy the vibes. Yeah, it's a joyous time. But you guys are building some cool shit. So we're gonna talk a lot about DeFi on Bitcoin, UTXOs, Bitcoin, Cardano, um, which is an interesting one because like you guys are started on Cardano and you recently came to Bitcoin, and so I'm actually curious about like let's do this real briefly, but like give me your trajectory into crypto. Like what got you guys into the space? And maybe Matteo, you could start.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I started in the crypto world in 2017. Uh, I started of course, on Ethereum, of course, Bitcoin a little bit before, but as a developer, I was very interested in the programmability of the blockchain world. And I started in 2017. I was involved also in my university about blockchain stuff, and then moved back into the UTXO world in 2018 with Cardano and Bitcoin, of course. But Cardano was going to offer smart contract functionality, and so I started as a academic, as a student of the blockchain world, and then I started working for companies that needed my technical expertise. And 2 years and a half ago, we started FluidTokens, me and Raul together, and now with all the team. So this has been the trajectory so far. It's been a long journey, as many of us, but definitely very interesting and full of innovation.
Love it. What about you, Raul?
Yeah, my story is a bit different. I was more into degen mode, meaning that when it was 2015, I found out what Bitcoin was, and I was looking all the files that they were around. That if you did some task, they sent you some fraction of very few Bitcoin at that moment. Bitcoin was something around $300 and $400, so very, very low. But I was a student, so I couldn't purchase any single fraction of Bitcoin. Then later, one of my friends spoke to me about Ethereum and other assets that were coming up. But I was just looking at them as a speculator mostly. And finally, I started to collaborate with some projects, doing some open source code, and meeting people during hackathon. And during one of these hackathons, I met Matteo, and he was really trying to preach to me the UTXO technology, saying, "No, you should start, you should start." And well, here after I think 3-4 years that I know Matteo, it's been a long journey and a good one.
Love it, love it. You got UTXO pilled by Matteo. That's great. I actually want to double click on this UTXO thing because you mentioned in 2017, Matteo, that like you were trying to use these new smart contract platforms that have like more programmability, which Bitcoin historically was like viewed as like it can't do that much. So everyone went to Ethereum, everyone went to these kind of like more expressive languages. I don't see many people talk about UTXOs as like a paradigm though. Like you have Bitcoin, Cardano is also UTXO based. So like help us understand, because most of us don't think about UTXOs besides it's like special to Bitcoin, but the difference kind of between UTXOs as a paradigm to program for and the opposite of like account-based models. Like what's the appeal for UTXO-based stuff?
Right, yes. So definitely from a developer perspective, the account model of EDM, so Ethereum as a first, player, it's much easier to understand because you have basically a view of everything is happening on the blockchain. And it's basically you're developing as when you develop standard Web2 applications for most of the time. The UTXO model on the opposite side is a little bit more complex to develop on because you have a limited view of what's happening in every transaction. So you have the inputs, the outputs, and a little bit more information depending on the blockchain. But when you manage the UTXO, so the single pieces that contains the money, the tokens, you're much more flexible and you can even scale much stronger. Because basically, if you are using some UTXO, you don't have to involve all the UTXO that exist. When on the opposite side, when you're an account model on Ethereum or anything similar, when you modify something, you're basically modifying everything. So there are some limitations, and the consensus model of blockchains already limit the speed of decentralized blockchains. So if you also have to change the state, the global state, every single time, it takes a lot more effort and it scales a little bit less. And this is how Bitcoin was thought at the beginning, only for payments. So it was a peer-to-peer transactions. And then different blockchains started to expand also after seeing Ethereum success, right? And Cardano is one, but there are different that are around.
Interesting. Do you think, is it fair to say that UTXO-based chains are theoretically more scalable?
Yes, theoretically, yes. Also in practice, the cool thing that happened later is basically understanding that UTXO blockchains are much easier to use with zero knowledge proof technology, because basically you have to prove a limited set of things, which are your UTXOs, instead of the whole global state that must be. It's difficult to understand what is the whole global state every single moment or in time. So it's more scalable, and also it's probably more compatible with ZK technology, which is going to be used for bridging stuff. So for connecting different blockchains and different ecosystems.
Got it. Okay. That's super interesting. Okay, then what's the and this is maybe for you, Raul. What was Matteo brings it to the UTXO side, and what was the catalyst to build DeFi stuff on Cardano?
Well, we started to build on Cardano once smart contracts were still not a thing. And in my opinion, that was the best moment, because a lot of people were coming and playing around with NFTs, with marketplace, and so on. However, there was all this liquidity locked inside these assets, so tokens or NFTs, and they couldn't do much with that, because you could sell them, or that's it. That's all you could do. So we created the very first version of Fluid, that was this peer-to-peer lending platform where borrowers were posting their collateral, looking for some lenders. And it found the perfect market fit at that time, and that motivated us also to adapt and keep changing that with the new iteration, with new evolution of the platform. And at the end of the day, there were very cool things that were possible using UTXOs that with account models we couldn't think about it. Even not just around the architecture, but also the fact that there is the proof of stake, and the protocol itself reward some addresses because they are just holding the native token ADA. It was really a good ingredient for building DeFi just using that.
Got it. Okay, so it started with the timing was, is this 2022? So there's like an NFT, this is like DeFi summer, but also NFT craze. Is that the time frame?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Got it. And so you started with, is it lending? You did loans initially. Was that your first product?
Exactly. Peer-to-peer lending, where
Got it.
borrowers were asking for loans.
Got it. Okay. Well, yeah, I want to touch on some of the stuff you're doing on Bitcoin in a sec, but actually, my knowledge of Cardano is extremely limited. I don't think about it at all, and I think that's most people that are my audience. But there was a big announcement recently with like Bitcoin OS, which is done by Edon Yago and his team doing this like new roll-up infrastructure thing. It looks super interesting. And Cardano had a big announcement of like they're one of the first top tier partners and networks to integrate. Um, but give us some color on for those of us who have know nothing about Cardano, like what's the appeal for Cardano?
Right. So Cardano is very similar in the mindset with Bitcoin. And this is what we started working on Cardano, right? Because the philosophy, the original philosophy that Bitcoin had was about decentralization, fairness, right? Transparency, accountability of everything that happens on a shared ledger that nobody can censor. And Cardano is one of the few chains that keeps this original philosophy with Bitcoin, but at the same time has basically developed more the UTXO architecture to support programmability with the smart contracts. So this being very true to the actual original ethos of Web3, we started building there. And it's still like this. It's still one of the most decentralized blockchain ever. It's very easy to set up a pool to become a validator of the network. It's not prohibitive. You don't need, so much investments for doing that. And is very efficient and is very secure because the approach has been always been very scientific, academic. They decided to go with a functional language, so to prove more formally the properties of the system. And this means that also the blockchain itself doesn't go offline often, not at all, not even once. Exactly as Bitcoin has done, right? So when you transact and you put your money on blockchains, you want to be sure that the money don't disappear or that you always in any moment can transfer them. And this is what we like, why we like Bitcoin, we like Cardano, right? And the similarities with the UTXO architecture between the two makes an additional step, an additional pro for our choice of building there.
Hmm.
And this year with Bitcoin OS announcement, uh, this choice has rewarded us. The ZK proof of Bitcoin OS itself is allowed only because of the UTXO architecture of both chains. If it was different, like an account model, it would be much more difficult.
I see. I see. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Has Cardano always been UTXO based? Because like I've heard stories through the years that, especially after the block size wars, a lot of people were kind of like disenchanted during that time, and they ended up going to different chains. Some went to Ethereum. I guess a decent subset went to Cardano. So there's a lot of like brain power in Cardano that is like slowly coming back to Bitcoin. So yeah, has it always been UTXO based since the beginning?
Yes, yes, it's been UTXO since the very first day. There is only one technical detail that is more like an account basic, which is the distribution of the staking rewards. But that's the only point. And it's not something that you normally write smart contract on. It's just part of the system of the architecture to distribute your staking rewards. Everything else is always UTXO based. And the thing is, on Cardano, a lot of people arrived in the previous cycle when there was not yet the smart contracts capabilities, and a lot of the development had to be done still at that point of time. And so when people wanted to use the actual DeFi, EVM, Ethereum in particular, was probably the best option, and because it was a first player in the smart contract market, right? So definitely the tools for developing the frameworks, the examples, the documentation was much more present in the Ethereum side compared to Cardano. Now we are in a point where actually Cardano has a lot of good tooling, a lot of very talented developers, and a lot of examples of smart contracts that have been working for years already.
Got it. Got it. Okay. No, that's interesting. Um, Cool. I want to maybe kick it over to you, Raul. I want to jump into the decision to move from Cardano to Bitcoin. I'm assuming you guys are watching Ordinals pop off, and you're like, Bitcoin's not boring and dumb anymore. It can do more stuff. So what is you're building on Cardano, you have a working platform people are using. What was the big decision to start building primitives for Bitcoin?
Yes. So, as you know, and as we said, we have a community of people coming from Cardano, but the cool thing about our community is they like to explore and expand and test other chains. So, and they were the ones pinging us saying, hey, there is a lack of dApps or DeFi on Bitcoin, Ordinals coming to come up, and runes will come up soon. It would be nice if you check it out. And it started like a challenge. Me and Matteo were looking at the documentation of not just the Ordinals and Runes protocol, but also about what was actually possible using Bitcoin scripts. And our task and challenge was, it is possible to create a lending transaction without using multi-signatures and oracles. And it was not easy. We didn't come up with a solution at the first try. But one day, combining the fact that Bitcoin is deterministic, meaning that giving a set of inputs and outputs, the transaction hash is always the same and cannot change. And given the fact that you can share this transaction hash without revealing the details of all the transaction, it was possible to build a peer-to-peer lending approach. And we launched it. Actually, it's live right now with lending for Ordinals, and it's already compatible with Runes. And the cool thing is that once a loan starts, it's completely permissionless and decentralized. Fluid has no control over the asset and cannot change any term of that, because everything is written directly on Bitcoin.
I love it. It's when you described it to me, I think we were in Lisbon and we were chatting, and you broke that down for me, like how the deterministic piece works, and I was like, oh my God, that's so freaking smart. And it's like what you have to kind of understand hash functions and these kind of things to kind of like somewhat grok it. So like if you're lost, if listening and you're lost right now, go do some of that research. It's not super difficult. But yeah, basically you could take in your inputs, it's gonna run through some hashing algorithm, and then you'll get a consistent number, and with that you can do certain things. As you said, like you can have a certain hash that will confirm this is what's gonna happen. So that's been one of the crazy things this year, is that even just PSBTs, which were like a technology that's been in Bitcoin for a while, but it wasn't until Ordinals came around that all of this PSBT infrastructure was built into wallets and people start using them to swap atomically. It really shows there's a bunch of stuff that Bitcoin can do that's already just kind of like there in script if you think about the problem the right way. So maybe there's a topic here, and actually I'll do this a roundabout way. First, what can you currently do on Fluid? Like what's the product suite you guys have live today?
Yes, so we have 3 products live, and the most popular right now is staking. So we are able to use script OP codes on Bitcoin to lock some UTXOs, therefore some Ordinals and Runes, until a certain day. And the cool thing is that in the similar way as I said before, Fluid has no control over those assets, because those assets are only time locked, meaning that if I stake, I am the only one who can unstake, and I am the only one who will be able to get them at the end of the time. And the most important, Fluid cannot stop you to unstake, because you are interacting with Bitcoin itself using the OP codes. And this means that every project can, first of all, projects like they do revenue share, or they want to reward community, or just give more utility, decreasing selling pressure of their collection or their rune, they can create staking. They can verify if the users are staking the right ordinals, because that's shown on the ledger, and they can verify if they are staking until the right time, because that's also deterministic. And in this way, you can create a system where everyone is happy, projects are happy, community is happy, and we as Fluid provide infrastructure, so we are also happy. The first product that we launched on Bitcoin was the one that I said, and it was lending. So lenders can provide liquidity, and actually it's an off-chain mechanism where lenders and borrowers interact. So they will get an email saying, hey, a borrower would like to borrow from you. These are the terms. Do you agree? And if they both agree on the terms, they will sign 2 times each. The loan will start. And at the end of the time period, the lender can claim the collateral in case he didn't receive the payment, or the borrower can unlock the collateral only if he pays back the lender using PSBTs. And the second product instead, the third product, is the DEX. We created a kind of model where users could sign their will to sell or buy runes, meaning that it was not custodial, it was just an off-chain transaction signature, and some other parties were able to say, hey, okay, I like your price and I will purchase this amount at that price. And this was done because in opposition of currently bulk listing or bulk selling on the runes marketplace, maybe some users were not able to purchase all the bulk or that amount, but wanted to purchase a little amount. And in this way, they were able to do it because they were able to find the best price and purchase to that user in this way. And basically, it enforces and leverages an atomic swap where both parties agree and they can choose the right tailored amount.
Awesome. Yeah, three key DeFi primitives: DEX, lending, and staking. And the staking one's interesting because you guys are the first mover in this space. No one else currently has staking infrastructure for L1 assets, mainly Ordinals and Runes. So like, there's a question here because you guys are kind of at the frontier. How far can we push script? Because like, there's obviously a narrative of like, if you go to L2, you can do a bunch of things, get a whole new design space. And maybe we get Opcat and that will make things easier for you guys. But like, when it comes to building today with the limitations of script, how far can we push script to build further DeFi primitives in like a permissionless way, or like improve UX? Like, what's your kind of pulse on where we currently are and like pushing script to the max? For either of you.
Maybe I can try to answer this one. So yes, the script language of Bitcoin is strongly limited if we compare to any modern smart contract environment, right? It can be leveraged a little bit more than what we're already doing now without going into the multi-signature approach or compromise. This is what we basically are going to build next month that we are building at the moment. So basically we had these 3 primitives and now we're building on top of these 3 primitives. But of course there are limitations. So you cannot do super fancy stuff, mainly because what you see during the validation of the script is very limited. As the thing that we call context when the transaction is happening is very small on Bitcoin. So you don't see everything that you may need for custom conditions and logic. But still, definitely, there is some more room. And what we are doing it thanks to the fact that we spent years on Cardano, another UTXO blockchain, because all the knowledge we acquired there allowed us to push the script language to the limits and to actually obtain DeFi and permissionless protocols primitives that nobody else was doing. Most of the people on Bitcoin are okay with the compromise of protocols that in reality are multi-signatures. So they are multiple signature, one from them and one from the protocol itself. And they trust the protocol in the sense that if a loan is happening, they just believe that the protocol won't be broken or won't be malleolous. But in general, if you are believing in DeFi, you want to do the opposite. So you need to trust no one, trust only the code, and verify yourself if you want. And this is why we started building on Bitcoin, because I think Bitcoin needs programmability, and either with a layer 2 or chain like Cardano connected, or with protocols that are native inside Bitcoin itself, like we are doing. But somehow it needs it, right? Because those money must be not only transferred between people, but sometimes also programmed. And yes, so basically we knew we could do it, and we started doing it because we knew that the community would have enjoyed it, would have used it. And I hope it will never happen, but if any protocol that currently is a multi-signature gets compromised and people start losing their Bitcoins or their runes or their ordinals, that will be a very strong example of why we need to actually put the permissionless and DeFi approach also on Bitcoin. On other chains, everybody's used to it because the smart contracts are already there, so you expect to use them. But on Bitcoin, of course, either you hold them and don't use them, or you want to use them, but normally accept the compromise of trusting third parties. But we don't like it. We don't like it because the blockchain, the principle of Bitcoin as well, was permissionless, trustless, not censorable, and the parameters of anything shouldn't be changeable easily, right? So this is how we are pushing forward with the script language.
Love it. Yeah, it's super interesting. The fastest way to build trust is to be trustless. Like if no one can mess with your money, then you know you can trust it. Like you trust in the code. One double click on one thing real quick. You said context, and I've trying to understand how the devs, like what is their limitations. One of the things I've heard is this thing of transaction introspection. Maybe it's the same thing of like in the way that Bitcoin's written, you can't really look down the stack too far and like check a signature. You have to kind of stay near the top. So how you order things is super important. Is that one of the like biggest headaches right now building on Bitcoin? Is that you don't have this, like you have to really design the stack very deliberately because of how limited script is?
It's a set of limitations. It's not just one single limitation, but it's actually a multiple things. The thing you were talking about is just about the script language works in a stack, so in a vertical way. So you need to be very careful on the order of the elements that you put inside. So definitely you have limitation on how deep you can go without removing all of the top elements. But there are other things. For example, we cannot, the meta protocols by definitions are protocols on top of Bitcoin. You cannot really validate the content of the meta protocols inside the transaction using the script language, at least in a direct way, right? In a very obvious, from a developer perspective way. So that's what I mean as a context. You cannot see, which token this guy is spending is somebody else also spending the same amount of tokens. You cannot really check that because the context of the transaction when it's happening doesn't give you this information. So the condition that you can apply to say, okay, this transaction is valid are very limited because you don't have these elements to compare or to move.
I see. Okay. Thank you for that little wisdom. Yeah, I want to touch on a couple more questions before we start to bring this to a close. The Bitcoin OS one is big. They're doing a great job of marketing. I've been watching them for a while, and that team is very well known in the Bitcoin space. How do you guys view the Bitcoin OS Cardano news? Like, what's exciting about this?
Yes. So I think that the thing that Iago said usually is that Bitcoin OS is not a bridge, even if everyone is explaining it like a bridge because it makes it easier to understand. And in my opinion, the cool thing is that, well, first of all, when you are using Bitcoin as bridge, you can really see the potential and the power of UTXO. As Matteo was saying, it is easier to get a proof, a smaller proof on UTXOs, but most important, you can split the computational in order to verify that proof in easily steps, in UTXO steps, that usually in account model you cannot, because you have the whole proof and you have to verify it yes or not. And in this approach, you have the advantage that you have no trust involved in this bridge, because the only way to unlock Bitcoin that are locked on layer 1 Bitcoin in the ZK bridge is to burn them on the other side. So every Bitcoin that is on Cardano in this case is always backed by one Bitcoin on Bitcoin layer 1. And nobody can touch them until they are there. And therefore, there is no team with the multi-signature keys that can do sketchy things while you are playing around with DeFi, thinking that everything is safe. So this is for sure the first thing. And
Okay. So one of the big unlocks here is almost all the bridges we have currently. And like bridges is like a loose term here just to like get Bitcoin into a chain. But a roll up is doing more than that. But all the bridges currently they're just glorified multi-sigs. Whether it's like 7 people staking or it's known entities, they're all multi-sigs. And so you have that custodial risk. As the number grows, the incentive to steal increases. Rug eventually is the fear. So something like this, you're saying that based on the cryptography of the Bitcoin OS kind of like software, you put it in, and by holding that token on the L2 in this case, you control the exit as well, right?
oh yes. No, I was saying that the additional, just to add something to what you say, is that in a roll-up bridge, the cool thing is that you don't have to trust that there are n amount of signers that are good parties. You only have to rely on at least one good party that is the operator of this. And why do we say that it's trustless? Because you can be also one of these parties, and therefore at that point the only requirement is that are you a good party? And if the answer is yes, then you don't have to trust anyone. You are just the only thing that matters is that you can trust yourself, and usually the answer should be yes. So
Yeah, we hope you can trust yourself.
sorry.
No, that's good. Is there any alpha on when we might see this? Because BitVM has been a big topic over the past year. For that exact reason, like this one of n trust assumption is such a better model than the current custodial bridges or multi-sig bridges, but nothing is live. So like, is Bitcoin OS soon? How soon is it? Do you have any idea or pulse on that?
It's in the time of probably 6 months, around 6 months from now. They are actually working on it in this moment, and the Cardano teams are helping the Bitcoin OS team to actually do the Cardano part. And yes, with BitVM was different because the first, for example, version of BitVM was very limited to 2 parties only. So most of the DeFi doesn't revolve about 2 parties only. So you definitely had to upgrade it, and they slowly understood how to do that. But still, the assumption, for example, of BTM are very strong. The amount of collateral you have to put, and you need to check that the collateral when you use the BTM is still enough and safe. Otherwise, people could be misbehave. and basically steal your money. Still is an interesting approach, and probably the new iterations of it will be very interesting. Bitcoin OS is much more direct in the sense that he has to prove the current state in a ZK proof, right? And then at least one verifier verifies that is the proper one, which is much more grounded, more tangible as from a developer perspective, at least. And so to answer is around probably 6 months to see at least a testnet or some kind of testing environment that works. And then if everything works and probably the auditing process also goes well, then at that point they will release on mainnet.
Awesome. Okay. Last couple questions to close this out. I mean, you guys have built some really cool stuff with staking. You can go stake dog right now. If you're hearing this, go try it out. Lending and a DEX. But what's coming soon? Like, what's on the roadmap the next, like, 6 to 12 months?
We want to provide the experience that you have on EVM chains or that you have around on Bitcoin. So one-click DeFi, I would say. It's not anymore signing my transaction and waiting for the other party to sign his part, but no, I want to be able to give programmability to UTXOs and to interact with directly that in one click, get a loan or provide liquidity for against some rune and so on. And so this is our task, and we are already in contact with some teams that are building on top of Bitcoin to allow this. So we are not doing this alone, and hopefully you will see it very soon on Fluid.
Very, very exciting. Very exciting. That would be a big UX upgrade compared to how we currently are doing a lot of this stuff. Like, I don't know what I'm signing. I'm signing my life away, clicking it, 4 times, do any kind of loan, and then it works, so it's good. But for like, my mom is definitely not going to be using a wallet and signing a bunch of stuff in that way. So that's exciting. Okay, last question to close this out. I like to always end on kind of a high note. Like, broadly speaking, what are you guys most excited about? It could be your project, it could be Cardano or some opcode upgrade. Like, what has you guys most hyped right now in the space?
There are so many things, honestly. That's why I work in this space personally. There are actually many. One is the idea of blockchain, particularly of course Bitcoin, but in general blockchain in the world. We are not fighting. People are not fighting against it anymore. Now we are just trying to regulate it, right? To understand how to integrate with the current laws and frameworks. Even all the institutions now are actively trying, to enter the space, to be part of the space, and to use it, which is the most important part for a blockchain and for a crypto ecosystem. Regarding the technology part, definitely Bitcoin OS is very interesting because basically connecting the UTXO worlds, all the UTXO blockchains that are around, will basically create a very big, I say, competitor to the EVM world that has always, it was always the top player for smart contracts. And now Bitcoin remains the biggest liquidity that has not been used properly yet. If we are able to actually connect it in a very safe way to all the other UTXO chains, now these other UTXO chains become layers of programmability, of smart contract support, and people can just use them, probably even hiding the details. They don't even need to know they are using, for example, Cardano, and then just go back to Bitcoin to settle their Bitcoin, their runes, their ordinals, and any kind of other protocol. So it's just this experience of the user that keeps improving in a safe way without compromising safety and decentralization. So this is the most important part, and what I think next year will be about.
It's a beautiful time to be building DeFi and crypto for sure. What about you, Raul? What are you most excited about?
I would say that account abstraction is the word. Why? Because today I onboarded one of my friends, and he said, "Okay, but what I have to do?" And I told him, "You have to download this wallet, and this other wallet." And he was, "Wait, why do I have to download 3 wallets?" And what I think should be the ultimate goal in the space in general is that you don't matter what wallet your users are using, but you are able to the app is able to interact with that wallet natively, so they don't really see the difference. They don't have to feel this strange experience for them that having to download 3 passports or something like that. And because I think that right now is a moment where we will get retail attention, and it's a good opportunity to not lose them in the process of onboarding due to these tech difficulties. But I think that right now we have the tools, and probably not just on Cardano or on Bitcoin, but in general in all the chains, that should be the goal.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, yesterday I just paid someone in Bitcoin for some meat I bought. And like I was like, hey, send me your wallet address. And he has to fucking go on Coinbase and pull these 20 digits and text me them. And I gotta go. It's just like, I know he hates it, but I'm the guy who's like, let me pay you in Bitcoin, man. Please. Like, I'm the Bitcoin guy. Let me pay you. So he has to deal with my complexity, but it's a terrible experience all the way around. So yeah, account abstraction is going to be a big one that's like still pretty early days, and there's like none of it really on Bitcoin, so that's going to be exciting. Um, yeah, I don't have any other questions. This has been a great conversation, guys. You guys are building some cool stuff. Anything that you want to close on, or a question that I didn't ask you wanna talk about?
Well, we talk about almost everything in a big view, right? So definitely we touch all the possible points. Regarding just adding to the account abstraction, one cool thing we are building as FluidTokens is abstraction where Bitcoin wallets can interact with Cardano directly using their wallets, which is the first step for actual full abstraction. In this way, once we will have, for example, the Bitcoin OS bridge, and people want to swap or trade or create loans on, for example, Cardano, they don't have to download another wallet or manage Cardano's native asset, right? They just use their Bitcoin and their rules and their ordinals, and everything should work smoothly from the same old usual wallet. And this is the experience I'm looking for. I don't want to have to buy other cryptos to pay for the transaction fees. I don't want to understand if I'm on a layer 2, which layer 2, if there is enough liquidity on that layer 2. All these problems are the biggest ones now in the blockchain ecosystem. And as we have seen already this problem, we are very well set to solve them, and to before they happen also on Bitcoin, for example. So this is a very good and positive point of view regarding the account abstraction.
Got it. Okay. One last question then, because I keep hearing that term of like account abstraction, and you can use a Bitcoin wallet and do things on XYZ chain, Cardano in this case. And I never know what that means. Like it sounds magical almost, like how it sounds too good to be true. So like what does that UX feel like? I have X first. It feels like I'm sending a Bitcoin transaction basically, but I'm interacting with a Cardano DeFi app or smart contract. Is that the flow, or what am I missing?
Yeah, usually, let's say that you would like to purchase one NFT on Cardano, okay, for instance, and but you don't want to download a Cardano wallet. So what happens is this account abstraction is able to generate a Cardano address that is not controlled by anyone except your Bitcoin key. So you will be the only one that, if any asset drops into this Cardano address, you will be the only one controlling it. And it can go even a bit more powerful than this, because it means that ideally, and it is possible, any ADA that is already in that address, you can even stake it using your Bitcoin wallet and get ADA rewards using your Bitcoin wallet. And that's sometimes it seems like magic stuff. However, it's just cryptographic because smart contracts can verify other chains signatures.
Got it. Interesting.
It's
Well,
mathematical.
that's a good one. That's a good one. Is it, I mean, going back to roadmap, like, is this tech still kind of like early, kind of like ZK is still kind of early, or is like account abstraction like pretty full-fledged and like we just need to build it on Bitcoin?
It should be live on testnet before the end of the year, and hopefully at the beginning of next year it will be live on mainnet. So we are testing all the possible use case scenarios and want to be most compatible possible.
You heard it here first. Coming very soon, guys. Very soon. That's great. Well, Matteo, Raul, this has been great. Thank you for coming on the show. You guys are building some cool ass shit. So yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks to you, Jacob.
Thank you as always. Always a pleasure to speak, and particularly speak with you. But these topics are always interesting to share. When we know, it's so fun to share like this.
100%. 100%. All right, well, this will be exciting. In a year, I mean, you guys have done so much in the past 6 months. It's going to be great to reconnect in a year, do a round 2 of this podcast, and you guys have taken over DeFi on Bitcoin. So yeah, till that time. Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening this far into the episode. If you found it enjoyable, please do like, subscribe on whatever platform that you're listening on. YouTube does me a huge favor to like and subscribe. Find me on Twitter at Jake Blockchain. Show me some love. I reply to every DM. And if you are a Bitcoin builder that is kind of at the forefront of building new use cases, whether it's L1, Lightning, Stacks, Rootstock, Rollups, Ordinals, BRC20, I want to talk to you. So when I'm not doing this podcast, I am the sourcing partner at the Bitcoin Frontier Fund, where we invest in Bitcoin startups at the earliest stages, give you access to whatever you need, whether it's legal, product, fundraising help, as well as capital. So love to talk to you. You can hit me up. Again, find me on Twitter at Jake Blockchain and shoot me a DM. I'll read everything. Love to talk to you guys. All right, peace.
It's gone now. We playing the long game to the black rock chains with the racks paid off from the blockchain. Going up high octane, so we up in here like pomade. Making big noise, big money, go play with your kid toys. You funny, I'm counting my Bitcoin. We up and we been gone. It's gone now. Planned it out and we did this purposefully. Panning out like the kitchen currently. It's like surgery, way it's earning me a nurse's salary for cryptocurrency. I'm on a vacay drinking coconuts while wearing polka dots. This ain't no hocus pocus, listen up and learn. It's gone now.